Well, it's starting to look a little bit like spring is coming. A little wet around the mill here, but yeah, spring is slowly coming, so we'll see what. Oh, I got a package in the mail today. One of my viewers that's been following my channel for a long time messaged me and said he sent me a little something for Easter here. Oh, he, like me, like that tuck tape. Boy, that's good stuff. It sticks. Oh. A really awesome set of. Yeah, I watched my old drill bits. Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, there's awesome. It's square drill bits that always, you know, I push my drills and whatnot. What is this thing? Wow, look at this thing. Well, that's a pickaroo. Yeah, I had one made out of an old axe, and it works, but not great. But this thing, wow, the way the handle's made, like nice grip in the handle. Well, we thank you very much, Glenn. I don't know what to say. I sure appreciate it. I appreciate watching my channel, and glad that you enjoy my videos. And you know, I just do what I can. Take the camera around with me when I'm doing stuff, and you know, tools like this that do make my life easier. Just less bending, and you know, even if it's just to kind of roll a log or something, you know, you're not sticking your hands in the pitch. You know, dry stuff, but firewood would come in very handy. Thank you again very much, Glenn. Thank you. So, got a couple of little logs left to do. We'll get a few 1-inch out of them. But it's just going to show you a little how I set the mill up. If you're thinking of getting a mill, buying, doing this sort of thing, just simple ways that I found to set things up and build a mill shed big enough that I had a little room inside of it as well. Doesn't take much more lumber to do it. And set my mill up with log stops on this side, on the same side as my log deck is. Now it kind of might seem backwards to some people, but I have to drop my log stops there, and I just put a 4x4 on the other side when I roll one on, that I don't roll a little too far onto the ground, and then I just slide my 4x4s back here. They're out of the way, and that way my sawdust comes out because I'm cutting against the log stops there. So my dogs are on the other side. Sawdust box catches the sawdust. But I built this mill shed. I don't like throwing boards too hard in the back. I wanted everything close to me, so I built it wide enough so I got an 8-foot door here that I can back a little trailer in. Pile my slabs on one side, pile my lumber on the other side, and then I can take it outside and stack it. If winter snow starts getting too deep, I stacked a bunch inside here. But when you're cutting, if you're just cutting one type of lumber, you're always building your pile up so you can put stickers between it and get it to dry properly and not warp on you. But if you're cutting a few different kinds, then you only have a few boards and maybe a few 2x8s and a couple of 4x4s and a couple of 6x6s and a few 10-foot 2x4s, and well, then you have a whole bunch of piles. And if you only cut once in a while, them boards will start to warp on you if they're not layered and weight put on them to help them stay straight or banded together. So if you just go at it, cut a big bundle of same kind of material, throw some bands on it or some weight on it, you know, it's all good. But if you cut other stuff, like I said, it's just I have a little variety of stuff here, and I'll just show you. I'm going to try not to make this too long a video. I've got the smaller 122 Woodlands mill, has, you see that big log out there, that big end is only 17 inches. I can go up to 21 with this mill, and I don't get many trees around here that are that big that I'm going to be trying to cut. So they're, I set this log deck up here. It's quite long, some of you might say, but I haul logs in here with my trailer, and if you go back through my videos, I've got a winch system hooked up on it so I can bring them in, and then I roll them straight onto here. I don't drag my logs on the ground. I try to pick them up where they're at. I've got a sleigh built that I can pull behind the skidoo or behind the quad that's low to the ground, so I can roll a pretty big log on there, 10, 12 feet long. There's no loader parked in my yard. I do it all by hand, so I set it up this way so that it can all be done by hand with, you know, for as much cutting as I'm going to do in a day or a week. I had enough on this log deck lasted me for 4 months or 5 months, you know, do a few logs at a time. But anyways, this mill, it's just set up. It's not very wide because it's 22. It's not the 26 or the 30. So it's easy to stand right beside it and reach across for your log stops here, log stops. You're not really leaning that far. The mill is narrow, and I kept this one fairly close to the ground. I probably could have went up another 4 or 5 inches, but then, you know, that would have been about the height I wanted. So I set it up. If you go back through my videos, I set it up with these were old railroad ties, so they're 6x8, and that way I got it up off the ground. It's just I did put a couple of these ties just about too close because I have log stops that go down over there, and I can just barely miss as I should have had these ties in the center between the bunks, and then just laminated 2x6 together. Can do the leveling there, but this way it keeps this up high enough when I'm doing cleanup. I can use a garden rake or a hoe, and I can reach underneath real easy and just drag it out from underneath, right? So you got to remember that when you set it up, if I would have set this up with these rails here, or 6x6s right on the ground, then I would have to try and scoop all the sawdust that gets down in here. I would have to try and scoop it out somehow, because when you're cutting, and you know, everybody says something a little different, depends on how their mill is set up, but when bark's flying off and sawdust that flies off, and I do some of the smaller logs, I cut 2 at a time, so a lot of your sawdust falls straight down underneath. It don't go straight out to the sawdust box or out in the wherever you're shooting your sawdust to, in a pail or whatever. So it's just getting it set up in the shed here so that it works for me, for my height and stuff like that. And like I said, I actually had questions about my blade guide here. On these 122s, this blade guide is not adjustable like the 126 or the 130. You can adjust it over once you have a cant and get it over closer to your cant, less chance of blade wobble. You know, yeah, just about time for a new blade, but I loosened it off. So, but it's just, yeah, these are just, because it's only 22-inch, they don't believe the blade's going to wander that much, and it actually does a pretty good job. I can't complain. You know, if you want perfect smooth lumber, well, go to the lumber yard. If you want perfect straight lumber, you're probably better to cut it yourself. Just pile it right, and you always have what you need at the time. Now, this 122 comes with 2 different engines. It comes with 7 horse or 9.5, and I went with a 9.5, just a little bigger motor, or 9. Yeah, I think it's 9.5. It's Kohler engine, so they're really good engine, and so if most of your timber is going to be small, like I said, you don't need a big mill. You're only going to cut the same, whether you have a bigger mill or not. You're only going to cut so many cuts till your blade's going to be dull. Getting a bigger mill might help you go a little faster. Your blade starts getting a little dull. If you're on smaller logs, you might not notice it as much, other than your lumber gets a little wavy. You know, just little things like that. But so I've got some 10-foot stuff here that I'm cutting right now. Ready firing the mill up again in a couple of days. And just, I needed a few long timbers, but I only needed, 4 or 5. And so I didn't build the opening here. I only went 16 feet with my opening because it's very rare that I'm going to even cut 16-foot stuff. It's just stuff that I'm going to use. It's mostly 8-foot and 10-foot, maybe a few 12s. So the opening's plenty big enough. And then I put a header up here. I see a lot of people just using a 6x6 header, and they go with a sloped roof. And I know maybe their shed's not very wide, but if you have quite a bit of snow in the area where you live, you need a good header. And I went with 14 inches, and then I laminated. That's actually 8x14, because it's all laminated with 5/8 plywood on both sides, as well as the timbers in there. So, but with the peaked roof, it just helps. I could go with quite a bit wider door and still not have a lot of weight on there, just because if you get a snow load on there, it's going to both sides of the roof, not just one side. So it's made things work out pretty well. I have, like I said, I could have lifted it up another 4 or 5 inches, but it's just the right height pretty much. I can kind of lean my leg against it a wee bit, and if you're cutting hard all day, well, if you lean too much, or instead of just stepping over, it's low to the ground, so you can step over and inside and do your log stops and turning your log and stuff like that. It's all at the right height. Even some mills that are set on trailers, and they are easier, portable, move around. A little harder to try and keep level unless you pack a whole bunch of blocking with you. But I find I watch people that are cutting, and they're reaching for everything. They're reaching to push the mill along, then they're reaching to try and pull the slabs off, and that gets hard on the back pretty quick. So I get organized here. I was showing you last video there. I got some lumber piled up, cleaned up that stuff over there, and I've got 5 piles out there that are drying good. Some I cut earlier last year through the summer. Some I cut through the winter and then moved it out there, mostly 1x6 and 1x8. So yeah, I just got a sawdust box and a scoop shovel, and I get a tiny bit of sawdust, blows over. It's easy to scrape up, but I just scrape that up and throw it in tubs so I can haul it away, and makes it fairly simple. And pull the sawdust out that's underneath. Like I said before, I get around. It depends on how I'm cutting, but I know when I scoop it up out of the box there, if I scoop up the sawdust out of that box and get 2 tubs full, I will have 1 tub full from underneath. That's when I was cutting some smaller stuff, and then I was cutting, putting 2 7, 8-inch logs side by side and just squaring them off and making 2x4s, and you get more bark and you get more sawdust falling down underneath. But yeah, it's just it's warm enough now. Less scraping. I'm going to bring the compressor out so I can just blow the mill all off. It gets rid of all that sawdust, and everything will just last longer and easier when it's clean, and you see what you're doing. And we're going to be back in the worm season and start back with a little bit of pitch again. Spruce is not too bad. I don't have a lot of big pine in this area. I know pine, people have a lot of trouble with pitch buildup and stuff, and not so bad here with the spruce. So just whether you put your mill up on pilings or whatever you set it up on, just having in mind that you do have to clean out underneath, or you'll be, cussing. I mean, it starts not working right for you when you get sawdust falling down in along the track here and by the holes, and lots of chunks of bark. And then you get a bigger chunk of bark that lays on your track like this here. And your little wheel comes along and catches it. If it bounces it sideways a little bit, I mean, it's going to throw your blade a little, you know, wonky in your board. So just keeping it all down so that it's clean, it rolls smooth, and so just make yourself some nice lumber. It's very satisfying to cut your own lumber, and you know, as long as you have a supply here. I had a neighbor that had a bunch of trees that told me I could have, and so brought them and got them cut. I'm down to the last few. He does have a few more, but not too many. So these are the last 3 bigger ones that we have to cut up, and then we'll be probably starting to get into doing some gardening and stuff like that. Then it's not going to be really dried up that quick yet, but you know, get into that. But just hopefully I can help somebody that's setting up a mill, or maybe they've set one up and just not happy with a few different things that are going on with it and stuff, and maybe some little tips that'll help save somebody a little bit of headache. It makes their life a little bit easier when they're cleaning up and keeping the area nice. The shed here, water shed off really nice, so a little bit of water along outside there when it first starts to melt. And never really a big issue about a whole bunch of snow piled up on my tracks or my rail there. There was a wee bit there, and you know, just shovel it back. But inside the shed, you know, I got good space here for walking around. And when I picked the slabs off and the lumber off the log, I mean, it's laying right beside the trailer. You know, that's basically logs there and the trailer's there. There's only 4 feet between them, so when I walk through past with the saw, it's easy to just pick that slab up, turn around and lay it down. No throwing it, no trying to drag it away anywheres. And the lumber, the same thing. So anyways, I hope you guys don't get too bored. I have you're still watching. You've seen a little I had to make a little break in here and just show you what someone had sent for me, a little gift. So glad you guys enjoy that, and we will catch you all later. We'll get back to some milling shortly.